It's Friday, April 3, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update. An upbeat Prime Minister Mottley addressed Barbadians publicly for the first time this evening after undergoing major surgery last week. She first assured Barbadians she is on the road to recovery while expressing her gratitude for their prayers and support.
I told you I'd see you at the end of this week, and I'm glad to be standing here. Thank you. Thank all of you for the wonderful prayers and for the outreach that's been absolutely tremendous and very humbling. Many of you have asked why the urgency. Well, the truth was that female gynecological problems, I had major surgery, and having had a biopsy that proved not to be malignant, they still were concerned that the ultrasound and the blood tests were giving them signals that they did not like, and hence I was advised that I needed to move with dispatch. But I thank you truly for all your prayers.
That matter aside, Mottley told Barbadians government's decision to shut down the country until mid-April against the backdrop of a rapid increase in COVID-19 infections is in the country's best interest. There are now 51 cases of the respiratory illness in Barbados, and she stressed that while it won't be easy, all must play their part to bring the numbers down to allow the country to return to a measure of normalcy.
If we can bring the numbers down in the next 2 weeks or so, then it will allow us to move to another stage, a new stage of normalcy, not the traditional way that we would expect, because the world is still on lockdown. The region is still on lockdown. 10 countries tonight in the Caribbean are on lockdown. But what it will allow us to do is to reintroduce areas of activity that you can't do in your house, but that are necessary for people to earn a living so that they can continue to support their families. Construction, greater domestic agriculture. We see now more people using the opportunity to do masks.
In preparation for the shutdown, Barbadians rushed to supermarkets, mini-marts, pharmacies and other outlets across the country today. In some cases, police had to be called in to control the massive crowds. Prime Minister Mottley noted that while Barbadians were preparing for the next 2 weeks, there is no need to panic. She assured the country has more than enough food, and while supermarkets will remain closed for the time being, arrangements are being put in place to allow citizens to purchase groceries.
It means that people might have to call in, people might have to WhatsApp, people might have to email, but each supermarket will settle its own individual arrangement. And then once that is done, people will be picking up or delivering. Now that means that there has to be coordination, and I'm aware that there are continued meetings this week, and the supermarkets need some time to be able to put those arrangements in place over the next few days. There are wonderful suggestions from all of you about how best to divide and who should access, and we'll get to that stage week after next so that we can come back to a greater sense of normalcy.
Some owners and employees of village shops across the country fear they may not be able to meet demands for critical goods during the national shutdown. That's because they are unsure whether distributors will replenish their stock during the lockdown period in which all supermarkets and mini-marts are prohibited from operating. Under the Emergency Management COVID-19 Curfew Directive 2019, food distributors are listed among a number of essential services and are allowed to operate between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. However, shopkeepers claim service from distribution salesmen has become virtually non-existent over the last week, and efforts to reach distributors have so far been unsuccessful. With just over 24 hours to adjust, shopkeepers today found themselves jostling in supermarket lines and at local distribution companies in a desperate bid to supply the country's communities over an uncertain period. Still, many doubt they will be able to continue operating much longer than a week or two after contending with a host of panic buyers in the hours leading up to the shutdown. In other news, 5 more people tested positive for the coronavirus COVID-19 in Barbados yesterday. The total number of confirmed cases now stands at 51. The latest person diagnosed include an 82-year-old Barbadian man who returned from overseas and his 73-year-old wife, a 58-year-old British female who arrived from overseas, a 37-year-old Barbadian male who came into contact with an infected person, and a 46-year-old Barbadian male whose case is still being investigated to identify the source of contact. There are now 26 men and 25 women in isolation.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news in Jamaica, Vibe Cartel's much anticipated appeal has been dismissed in the Court of Appeal in downtown Kingston. Cartel, whose given name is Adidja Palmer, was sentenced to life behind bars by Justice Lennox Campbell in April 2014, following his conviction for the murder of Clive Lizard Williams. Cartel's attorney at law, Valerie Nita Robinson, is planning to appeal to the British Privy Council. On the international front, Tokyo could be the next New York City as COVID-19 cases rise rapidly. Experts warn that the country needs to change course.
This is what doctors call a mild case of novel coronavirus.
Your cough sounds very painful.
Issei Watanabe struggles to breathe as he speaks to us from his Tokyo hospital room. Watanabe is 40, a non-smoker, in good health. When he asked for a coronavirus test, he says he was turned down.
How long did it take before they actually allowed you to get tested for coronavirus? 5 days you had to wait for that test.
Watanabe says he infected at least 2 people that he knows of during that time.
Is that a problem?
It is a huge problem.
Kobe University infection control specialist Kentaro Iwata is worried about a spike in cases in the Japanese capital.
The beginning of the burst of the infection in Spain, France, Italy, and New York City, that was really like Tokyo right now.
Iwata fears government warnings about the danger of spreading the virus may have reached many people too late. Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe are pleading with the public, asking people to stay home, avoid travel, and practice social distancing. The government still has not declared a state of emergency or called for a lockdown of Tokyo.
They have imposed tough new travel restrictions, banning foreigners from more than 70 countries, including the U.S., and asking everyone who arrives in Japan to self-quarantine for 14 days.
Japan needs to have the courage to change when we are aware we are on the wrong path.
What happens if Tokyo doesn't change the plan?
We might see the next New York City in Tokyo.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.